updates on Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta, ahead of the game against Manchester City, said, no worries on my contract. He has 1 year left on his contract, but Arteta said, I'm very happy here. The feeling between me and Arsenal is excellent. We want to be together. So Arteta is fully expected to sign a new contract at Arsenal. The conversations already started before the end of the season, around the end of March, beginning of April. Now the agent of Arteta himself and Arsenal are talking about the final points of the contract, and then the expectation is for Magic Mick Arteta, as Arsenal fans call him, to put pen to paper and sign a new contract very soon. While we talk about Arsenal, let me restart with Arsenal. Let's start in London this video. Because Arsenal are looking for a centre-back. Arsenal are still looking for a centre-back. They made some calls for Mark Pubil over this week, but the player is not for sale. Atletico Madrid have no intention to sell the player, and so Pubil's story is a non-story at this stage, in the sense that they consider the player, but he's not for sale. Then, in the last 24 hours, Gabriel Konsa, the defender from Bayer Leverkusen, Liverpool already have control on the player, but the defender emerged as a new option for Arsenal centre-back. And it's true that Arsenal have an interest in the player. From what I understand, Arsenal made official contact with Bayer Leverkusen in the recent hours, at night. The answer from Bayer Leverkusen is that they don't want to sell the player, so they rejected the approach from Arsenal, the first approach with a verbal exchange. Then let's see if Arsenal will decide to try also in the next days to see and try and understand if Bayer Leverkusen can change their stance. Don't forget that Liverpool maintain future control on the player, but Liverpool had no possibility now to activate the release clause. The release clause, the buyback clause, already expired. And so if Liverpool want to bring back Gabriel Konsa to the club for 70 million euros, has to be in summer 2027. But for sure, Arsenal are interested in the boy. At the moment, Bayer Leverkusen rejected the first approach. Let's see if Arsenal try again, but for sure the interest is genuine and movements took place. So we have to follow that situation. Then the other name I would keep in the shortlist for Arsenal remains Ezri Konsa. Because Aston Villa defender is very appreciated, Arsenal are considering the player, Arsenal have the player on their shortlist, he's been on the shortlist for some time, and so for sure Konsa is a name to keep in mind when we talk about Arsenal defender.
Gooners, I want you to feel this moment properly, because after weeks of negotiations, lowball offers, Villa finding Arsenal's approach insulting, the Guimaraes saga dominating everything, and defensive concerns building with every passing day, Ezri Konsa is 99% done. Football Insider confirmed it on Friday. Arsenal are in the final stages of negotiations with Aston Villa. This is happening. And now Fabrizio Romano has added the most important layer of credibility to this story. Speaking on his YouTube channel, Romano was clear and specific. The other name I would keep in the shortlist for Arsenal remains Ezri Konsa because the Aston Villa defender is very appreciated. Arsenal are considering the player. Arsenal have had the player on their shortlist for some time, and so for sure Konsa is a name to keep in mind when we talk about an Arsenal defender. Romano. YouTube. Shortlisted. Appreciated. Considering. That is not vague transfer noise. That is one of the most connected journalists on the planet confirming what Football Insider are reporting on the deal itself. The two sources are pointing in exactly the same direction. Now let me remind you why this signing makes so much sense. Because I think in all the drama of Vinicius, Guimaraes and the left-wing pursuit, some Gooners have lost sight of just how good Ezri Konsa actually is. His own Villa teammate, Ollie Watkins, gave the most compelling endorsement you will ever hear from a player about a defender. I think Ezri is just so underrated. It's mad how under the radar he goes. I think he's one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League. People don't look at that straight away. Defensively, he hardly puts a foot wrong. I remember we played against Brazil and Vinicius Jr. couldn't get past there. He's so solid. Vinicius Jr. could not get past Ezri Konsa, the same Vinicius Jr. that Arsenal were willing to pay £130 million to sign as their main attacker. That tells you the level of player we are talking about here. 34 Premier League appearances last season, 3.6 clearances per game. Versatile enough to cover right back when needed, which is exactly what Arsenal need with Timber's injury history. Berta used his patient negotiating masterclass beautifully here, opening low, holding firm, letting the situation develop, and landing the player at a number significantly below Villa's opening demands. The domino has fallen. Welcome to Arsenal, Ezri. So, Gooners, how much does it excite you to see Konsa arriving to solve the Saliba crisis? And do you agree with Ollie Watkins that he is one of the most underrated centre-backs in the Premier League? Drop everything in the comments right now. Right, Gooners, this one is completely unexpected, and the way it has emerged tells you something fascinating about how transfer negotiations at elite level actually work behind the scenes. According to Football Insider's sources, Arsenal will have to offer over £60 million to stand a chance of signing Victor Osimhen from Galatasaray before the window closes. And here is the detail that makes this story so intriguing. Arsenal apparently inquired about Osimhen's availability during the same conversations with Galatasaray about Martinelli potentially moving to Turkey. 2 conversations, 1 phone call, 2 completely different transfers being explored simultaneously. Now let us talk about what Osimhen actually is, because this player has been linked with Premier League clubs for years without anything ever materializing, and there are very good reasons why elite clubs have consistently tracked him. 28 goal contributions in 33 appearances in his first permanent season at Galatasaray, a player who has proven himself in Serie A, in Turkey, and at international level for Nigeria. Physically imposing, explosive, a genuine goal threat from open play and in transition. At 27 years old, he is at the absolute peak of his powers. But Gooners, let me be straight with you about the complications here, because they are significant. Osimhen is on over £300,000 per week at Galatasaray. That is an extraordinarily high salary that would make him Arsenal's highest paid player by a significant margin, surpassing even what was being discussed for Vinicius Jr. When you add £60 million in transfer fee to those wages across a multi-year contract, the total financial commitment becomes genuinely enormous. The question every Gooner needs to ask, honestly, is this: does Osimhen solve the specific problem that Budapest exposed? Does he give Arteta the kind of progressive, intelligent, link-up striker that the stats showed Arsenal desperately missing when we compared Gyökeres to Alvarez? And the honest answer is not necessarily. Osimhen is a pure goal-scoring striker in a way that Alvarez is not. He is devastating in transition and in the box. But the progressive carrying, the creative involvement, the ability to bring others into play that makes Alvarez so uniquely valuable, that is not Osimhen's game. Alvarez remains the right answer, but if that door stays closed, Osimhen at the right package is absolutely worth exploring. Watch this space. So Gooners, Holkskjaaf, at £60 million plus over $300,000 a week in wages, is Victor Osimhen the right striker for Arsenal, or does that financial commitment feel too enormous given what you are actually getting? I want every single honest opinion in the comments. Okay, Gooners, this is the story that ties everything together, because Football Insider are reporting that Everton are ready to move for Ben White the moment Konsa arrives. And when you see the full domino sequence, Arteta's defensive plan for this season becomes completely clear. Step 1. Konsa arrives as the right-sided centre-back who covers for Saliba during the rehabilitation period and provides genuine elite-level competition when the Frenchman returns. Step 2. Ben White moves to Everton, who have been chasing a right-back all summer after missing out on multiple targets. White is open to the move, wanting regular starting football, something Arsenal genuinely cannot guarantee him, with Timber, Konsa and eventually Saliba all competing for defensive positions. Step 3. Arteta's backline settles into a clear hierarchy. Saliba and Gabriel as the first-choice centre-back pairing when fit, Konsa and Hincapi providing elite cover, Timber at right back with flexibility built in throughout. Now I want to be honest with you about Ben White, because this is another departure that deserves proper acknowledgement. 5 years at Arsenal, a Premier League champion, an absolutely reliable, intelligent, versatile defender who never caused problems, never asked for more than his role required, and gave everything in every single training session and match day. The injuries in recent seasons have been desperately frustrating for him and for the club, just 12 Premier League appearances last season. But at his best, he was one of the most technically sophisticated fullbacks in the country. He deserves regular football. Everton gives him that chance. At 28, with a full pre-season behind him and the injury demons hopefully behind him, White can go to Goodison Park and remind people exactly why Arsenal signed him from Brighton for £50 million in the first place. A fresh start for a player who has given us everything he had. The young Marley Salmon is apparently impressing massively in pre-season too. The 17-year-old defender turning heads at London Colney and providing a glimpse of another Hale End talent pushing toward the first-team picture. The defensive future at Arsenal looks extremely well organised. Konsa in. White to Everton. The plan is becoming clear. So Gooners, are you sad to see Ben White potentially leave, or do you think this is the right time for both player and club to move on? And does the arrival of Konsa make his exit completely understandable? Drop your honest tribute to Ben White and your thoughts on this defensive reshuffle in the comments right now. Alright Gooners, smash that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Konsa 99% done. Osimhen emerging as a shock option. Ben White heading to Everton. This window is restructuring Arsenal's entire squad in front of our eyes, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss what comes next. Completely free, hit that button now. Until next time, Gooners, come on you Gunners!